this around.
Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into the AP Film Room, the latest edition. Little break from it after the bye week. You know, we had a little time off to regroup, to self-scout, and now we're back. We're back to break down the Chiefs as we always do. I'm the lead analyst for ArrowheadPride.com, Ron Kopp Jr. With me is Caleb James, great film analyst for us at the site. We're missing our guy Nate tonight, but he'll be back next week, I imagine. It's Thanksgiving week, you know. There's a lot going on, so I appreciate everyone joining us tonight on Blackout Wednesday, as they call it. Some may call it, but Caleb, my guy, we're a couple of days removed from the tough loss now. So how you feeling? A couple of days away.
Oh man, that game was rough because you're going into halftime with a 2-score lead on a team like the Eagles, and they're almost putting them in a situation, I thought, where it was like, oh man, they can like come out and control the clock. They can put Philly in these passing downs. They can prevent them from running the ball. And the offense just stalled in the second half, man. It's been the story of the season. I know everyone's been highlighting how many, the lack of points they've scored. And I think this week, really, emphasized all that if you want to look at it like that.
Man, no kidding. The stats this week have been crazy. Somewhere around 5 points a game they've been averaging in the second half, the lowest rate in the NFL. They've had 0 points in the second half the last 3 games. And specifically in the last 2, I really feel like, it was all about, hey, we built a nice lead. We used the run game well. We get to that second half. The defense says, all right, we're going to make you throw it a little bit. We know you want to run. We know you have a lead. And all of a sudden the Chiefs offense looks a little uglier. So we'll get into that. But as you mentioned, Caleb, I mean, the run game was setting the pace. They had a 17-7 lead right off the bat. So let's get into it because you, my friend, looked into, kind of how the offensive line played and just kind of how the front kind of controlled this game for a little bit. One time possession in the box score, right? And had more yards. Won in a lot of phases in this game, which is one of the frustrating things. But why don't you talk to us about how the Chiefs offense played in that phase?
Yeah, let's get into it real quick. And you saw a little bit of explosiveness this week from Pacheco. He had a couple of big runs. This run here, this on the offset zone, I actually thought this was extremely similar to the run he had in the playoff game against Jacksonville. Because you'll see on the right side here, Hassan Reddick doesn't come up the field at the snap. He kind of waits and tries to sift back inside. But this is, the Chiefs are running zone to the right here. So it turns into he's just crashing down on him, trying to seal him in, kind of like almost how you do on an option or an outside zone type play. And Trey Smith was battling all game in there. And Trey Smith, I thought he played the best game of everyone on the line because he was battling in there with Fletcher Cox, with Jalen Carter. He's creating movement against some really good players. Rashee Rice playing hard down there at the end of the play. Joe Tooney and Creed just locking their guys up also. So you saw that. That's early in the game. It's 25 yards. That's a rip, right? And we'll just get to this other angle of it because it's a good play by Jawan Taylor too. He didn't just run out there. He's patient, and then he just crashes down, seals him inside. Look at the effort from Rashee Rice, though. He struggled in run blocking a little earlier this year. He's doing his job to fix it. And we'll see a little bit later on in the game here. They're going to go back to that offset zone kind of look. And really to me, the guys who kind of make this play happen are that interior 3. And you see, Tooney and Creed starting to work up. Trey Smith and Taylor work up also. Donovan Smith kicks his guy out. So, and look at Creed Humphrey. He gives Jalen Carter a little bit of the business there at the end. That was, and he does get thrown at the end of the play, but still you'll see just the technique he has. He comes in, he's definitely lower. He's using that leverage. And then once he kind of hooks him a little bit, but his hands are tight. No one's going to be able to see that or call it. Joe Tooney's doing a great job to get off on the linebacker there. And now, that's a big hole. And not only is it a big hole, there's like no one around him. So we'll just take a step back and just take a look at like that pre-snap box real quick. Okay, they got these two guys over here. They got like their wide edges. They do have like a walk-up safety type player, but he's not really going to be in the equation. And, they see the little counter step from Pacheco. They all go that way, but it's still the zone concept. So the Chiefs are able to pick up another chunk of yards there. And, they ran other stuff outside of zone too. They run power here. Jawan Taylor and Trey Smith create a massive amount of movement on the right side there. You'll see Taylor is going to perfectly gallop down into this. Trey hips in, and now they're tight. Creed gets his back block, and Joe Tooney's still one of the best blockers in space. These are massive holes. Justin Watson, Travis Kelce getting some blocks in there as well. And really, Pacheco is just running now. Like, he doesn't get touched for quite a while there. I'm going to touch on that here a little bit more in just a second. But Jawan Taylor's improvement in the run game, I think, has been a little underrated this season. It hasn't been something that's been looked at. But you'll see, through the course of the game, he's actually trying to make an attempt to be more physical. He's been smarter. This is a tough look that Philly gives them here because they return their defensive linemen to the inside gaps and bring those backers flowing over the top. It's kind of like a little bit of a delayed run blitz here. So let's just key in on the right side of the line. You got Taylor's uncovered. Kelsey's got Reddick over him. And Fletcher Cox is in the 3 tech right there. And it looks like Creed's uncovered, but Cox returns. So Creed has to come over in a hurry, and he's snapping the ball too. So that's never easy. While this linebacker is flowing down into the hole hard, and so is number 31, that kind of walk-up player, like I was saying. So then Trey is going to contact that overflow backer, but Creed does a real nice job of sealing Cox, and Taylor has just got to keep working. He stays patient and gets just enough to be able to put a hit on that guy, and Pacheco gets pretty darn close. He sets them up for a first and goal type situation. So the Chiefs did a really good job of kind of running off, working off the little run stunt there, taking on the backers, and just a heads-up play by Jawan Taylor there. Jawan Taylor had maybe one of the worst reps of his career early in the game, but he really did bounce back. Now here, let's get into some of the interesting stuff, because now we've got Kadarius Toney in the backfield. I wouldn't say there's one single linebacker in the box here. 41 is there, but he's wide, so we're not going to count him. And Reddick is wide, he's just his typical walk up off the ball. This is what Kadarius Toney, the rest of the league thinks of him. They think there's no way the Chiefs will actually do something traditional with him, because all they've shown this year is trick plays and gadget plays and reverses and passes, and they're doing too much. So what's easy? There's no linebackers in the box. We have a really good run blocking offensive line. Just follow them and then do some really special Kadarius Toney things after the play, which he does. And Trey Smith giving Joe Tooney, those guys, they're fighting hard in there on that. I want to just continue to point out, I like what Jawan Taylor's doing here, because he gets in here and he stabs Reddick, man. He's got his hands inside there. He's doing a real good job. He's been getting more physical over time. So he's definitely getting better as a run blocker. And I think they're going to need him down the stretch, because I do think they're going to have to lean into a little bit of the running game as the season goes along. Toney, if they could just get him more reps like this, it's going to start to open more stuff up. And we saw some Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week. They were on a toss with Clyde, and look at Donovan Smith has a good block here. He seals the guy. He's creating this wall. Him and Joe Tooney are in perfect sync, getting everyone covered up. So is Kelsey, seals him in. Clyde just has a nice little run there. Nice little bounce back. But they have to run. They have to run these different looks, man. They have to be able to run these different kinds of plays you saw against Denver and Miami, then they're running 90% zone runs. I mean, it's so predictable. They can position their linebackers where they want to stop people at. They can plug in the gaps and force the Chiefs to almost make like a flying V where they just have to get hip to hip and try to create push. And that's hard to create. It's hard to create yards doing that in the run game. So they got to spread it out. They got to keep them with different looks. Just Donovan Smith even got a hand on the backer there too, or that safety. So he got a couple of players. And then you see just how little they really care about like looking to play the run. I mean, the Chiefs are pretty clearly running this little offset zone again, and it turns into like with the Eagles blitzing it. I like thought initially when I watched this, I was like, this is a draw play, and you could see a little bit of it. It is just going to be that offset zone, but just the way, like, I mean, look, 41 is getting ready to be blitzing. The Eagles guys are coming hot off the edge. Like Hassan Reddick looks like he's ready to bend the arc and start trying to work up the field for Mahomes. So it kind of turns in on the run, So maybe we see like a little draw action with McKinnon there. That's something they can do with him to kind of mix things up because he's been in so much on just these passing downs where everyone expects him, him to just be in protection. They got to start trying to find a way there to make that stuff work. And I think they could continue to try to lean into the run game a little bit. Now, I don't have a problem with Isaiah Pacheco, but when you look at his yards after contact, he is in the bottom third of running backs in the league, which is surprising. I know that's not like what everyone wants to hear. It's not really anything he's done because I do like him. His explosion is special. But they need to start trying to maybe look for another option in the run game. And I don't know if it's with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't know if it's with Jerick McKinnon because both of them they've looked pretty down at times. This is probably about the best those guys have looked. So maybe I don't know if they just want to trust their in-house guys, if they want to start to establish the run more with Pirine or maybe even Derek Prince, or maybe if it's another option like Darrell Henderson got released from the Rams. He's been someone that has been on the Chiefs' radar over the past few seasons. They had him in for a draft visit. They had him for for like a mini camp practice session.
Yeah, like a tryout.
Yeah. So I mean, Ron, what do you think about that? Though I'll get these pass clips loaded up, but I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say they can lean into the run game, but I think if they're going to do that, they have to have a clear-cut second option in the run game.
Well, I think they could just help themselves schematically, and I think that's what you saw and a theme of the run plays, the successful ones you showed here, where they were all from lighter personnel a lot of the times, right, and into lighter boxes because of that lighter personnel. Trying to run, I love that one back power. That's why I was so excited to see when you showed that. It was one of my favorite run clips of the game. Yeah, one back power. It spreads your offense. It spreads the box out a little bit. Doesn't make the defense as tight into the box. Not as many bodies, but the other thing it does, in my opinion, is it just makes the down block angles easier a lot of the time when you have the spread out, when guys have to kind of, it's a four-man, especially with the Eagles, right? They run a lot of five-man fronts. Traditionally, you get them into that four-man front, all of a sudden, boom, yeah, all those down blocks are easier. Love to see that. So, yeah, I think if they just continue to try to run and have success running from that lighter personnel, trust their offensive line to kind of take care of business, and stop trying to get the run game going out of 13 personnel because it's just not going to work. And stop running 13 personnel in general if Blake Bell's going to be that third tight end. But yeah, I think the Darrell Henderson's an interesting thing though, because we've seen him have some plays, man. We've seen him pop a few times. So
it just makes you wonder how that guy would look in just a different setting, an offense where he's not necessarily going to be like they're not going to key in on the run game as much. And the reason teams will never really key in on the run game as much is because of number 15. He's proven time and time again through his career, if you want to beat the Chiefs, you have to be able to turn him over, stop Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs have had some games where they've relied on the run game. This week, though, they didn't really run the ball a lot in the second half. They gave 7 touches to Pacheco in the second half. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and McKinnon each only got 1 handoff, so they really only had 9 true handoffs in the second half of this game, which is unfortunate, but they were trying to put it away passing. And so let's look at this. So, yeah, McKinnon and Kelsey are going to be in here to chip, and I know that's been an issue in the past. This isn't like last year, though, at least when I see it, where you have to give Orlando Brown and Wiley immediate help or they're going to get beat ridiculously fast around the arc. like it tended to happen sometimes. This is more for me because, number one, look how long Mahomes is holding the ball here, and he's still kind of in the pocket looking around. And eventually they do get the flag out for pass interference there. But this is such a long time. I mean,
yeah, the ball needs to be – Tony's open on this. I mean, if he stays disciplined in his drop, I mean, this is an easy completion. You watch Tony come into the screen here. Yeah, it's one of those Mahomes gets happy feet for sure, in my opinion. I think the O-line does great here.
I mean, they have to mirror up one of the best fronts in the league. And this is the thing I think keeps getting forgotten about is the Chiefs' offensive line. Every week, they see the absolute best the other team has to offer. They're going to see looks that they don't normally see. It's going to be the first time it's put on film. So if we're going to be at the point where Mahomes is getting to the top of his drop and looking one read, two read, and the Chiefs are still trying to mirror guys up, I mean, I don't see how you can complain about having to give a chip there, and at least in my opinion, because they're still having to mirror the ball for 5 seconds. Like, it's not like I was saying with Orlando Brown last year, where if McKinnon doesn't come give him a shoulder quickly, he's just going to get beat around the arc like he was doing last week against whoever the Ravens were whoever the Bengals were playing. But yeah, and here on this play, Rice gives some hand help to Jawan Taylor, and I'm sure you know what play this is, Ron. But look at Donovan Smith. He's going against a real, Donovan Smith. He must have got an earful this week, or he decided it was time to step up and play better because he had a good week. I understand the turnovers. Not the turnovers, the penalties. I get all that, but at the end of the day, they kept their quarterback clean for the most part, and that's all you can hope for. And I mean, Trey Smith was excellent again. And I mean, it's just hard, man, seeing these guys go up here against let's go look, that's 6 sacks, that's 7 sacks, that's 4.5 sacks, and that's Fletcher Cox. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, this is hard work these guys are doing, and it's a clean pocket for a 60-yard bomb. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say,
That brought back some bad memories. I was sitting towards that. It was right in front of me. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. If anyone was around section 121, that was me yelling at MBS. I bet you that was me. That was me if you heard it. If you heard me.
And Trey Smith, he even has the most heads up play of everyone here because Tooney's getting ready to get beat by Carter, but he bumps Cox over into Carter at the last second, which kind of prevents everything from getting back there. And I mean, you even saw Mahomes. He held the release he just threw a 3, he just shot a 3.
Oh man,
it's rough.
I mean, that was cold blooded. It was cold blooded. It was a great throw, great play. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, and so you see, these aren't this isn't even a chip from Travis Kelce here. He's giving presents, but they're running this stunt anyway, so it's not even helping do anything. And McKinnon, he just kind of throws an elbow, but I mean Trey Smith, he continues to just throw people around. I've been saying for a minute now, I think he's been the best player on the line this season. I'm going to stick with that statement because he punished Brandon Graham there. And I mean, really, Mahomes ends up out of the pocket because I posted the graph this week with my True Media stuff. Mahomes has had the longest time in the pocket, and he's also had the lowest sack rate. So that's not looking at total sacks because Washington has given up a ridiculous amount of sacks this year. We know who one of their tackles is also, but when you're looking at it, he has had the longest time holding the ball of everyone, and these guys are giving him a chance. I mean, Donovan Smith there, he throws the guy down. Trey just blows up the inside. This is a clean. This is still not an area where Mahomes would be worried at. It's just concerning that no one can even get open on these scrambles, and he almost turns the ball over just trying to flip it to McKinnon there. And we'll just continue to look. It's the last play of the game, and they just can't get it done. It's another clean pocket. You'll see Watson, there's a little bit of help from a chip here. But, I mean, also you're going to be looking at having to go against all these guys downfield. Trey Smith, another just devastating block, and Hassan Reddick's kind of in a coffee house look here because he almost gets in there and tries to go get after him. He just can't quite do it, but Mahomes is trying to fire a pass into heavy, into heavy coverage, and it did look like Watson had a chance to go get it, but still, I mean, at the end of the day, that's a real clean pocket on like a 4th and long against one of the best pass rushes in the league, regardless. And I mean, are they giving a little bit of chip help? Yeah, but they also know at some point, at some level, our guys are in pass protection for a lot longer than a regular offensive lineman is going to be. So I have a hard time like with people saying the line is half the problem. I get you got to clean up the false starts and some of the holding calls. That stuff happens though. I mean, at the end of the day, your quarterback's not getting hit as much as a lot of other guys, and he's holding the ball for far longer than everyone else is.
Yeah, and Mahomes definitely deserves credit for avoiding sacks at times, but you're 100% right. In this game specifically, they stepped up. I think the bye week maybe did them some good. Maybe they did hear some of that because, hey, I mean, I think we were all saying that the run blocking could be better. That in some ways they could just perform overall better. And yeah, I think they stepped the heck up. I think the O line deserves a lot of credit for all the success the offense had on Sunday in the pass game and the run game. Yeah, you mentioned they only gave up one sack, or they kept them clean all day. They really did only give up one sack, and that's kind of where we're going to start with my stuff, because I think on the offensive side of the ball, really it's just this deep pass game, this downfield passing attack. We already saw two of the drops that ended this game, right? But the Chiefs cannot get on the same page with their downfield passing attack. One thing or another, it is not clicking. And the drops are the easiest thing to point to. We can all see the drops. We all saw them. I just told you I was in section 121. It was right in front of my face. I was ready to go nuts with my fellow Chiefs fans. And then it turned into anger real quick. But the drops are only not even half the story, maybe. There is a lot more to the story than just the drops. And first of all, I think at times it becomes it's a schematic failure on the Chiefs' offensive part. And I thought the biggest example of that was the team's first sack, or the only sack of the game. It came on the second play of the entire game. They're going to try to get a play action shot here at a 12 personnel. They were doing that, that tight end, shifting Noah and Kelsey one side to the other, just to kind of, I think they were just doing that a lot of times to see how the Eagles would react to it early on. But here it ends up giving Jawaan Taylor to the right, two tight ends in theory to help him chip, right? That's in theory. This is supposed to be a good thing for Jawaan Taylor, right? Well, watch which one of them goes and chips, and watch which one of them releases. Kelsey, the outside tight end, releases into a route. Gray, the inside tight end, is now tasked with like going in front of Kelsey to try to help chip. The only thing that does is widen Reddick's angle and make it easier to get to the edge around Taylor and get the sack. I don't think this is on Taylor. This is really just a design flaw. If you want your tight end, if you want tight end chip help on this kind of play design, it needs to be from your outside tight end to maintain that for a second, to give Taylor the depth, right? When you do it this way, Reddick just gets ahead of steam and Gray doesn't have the angle to help. I don't know if he was supposed to go under Kelsey, if he was supposed to maybe go under Kelsey instead, but instead he went over. But this is the second play of the game. How do you mess up a scripted play like this? Right. Caleb, I'd love your thoughts here. I mean, this just, I feel like, sets up Taylor for disaster.
Dude, when you're going against like big defensive ends like Bosa, Myles Garrett types, like, yeah, you want that little extra distance. And that's not really what you want against Hassan Reddick, giving him more space to operate.
Right.
Because look what Donovan Smith does to Josh Sweat. Just jump set and then shut it down. Good protection, smart play. It's like, I don't know. Like, I know like the whole chip block thing with Orlando was big last year, but that was because he was relying on those. And now you see he's allowed the most pressures in football or something ridiculous like that this year. Without that, it's just, I don't know. That's just a really goofy play design. I don't really care for that. I mean, like you said, though, he might have had a chance for Kelsey or MVS if he's got a little bit of time.
Or, yeah, and that's the big thing here is this is a missed opportunity for the deep passing game, because if you watch MVS, the Eagles are going to blitz here. They're going to give no safety help. It's going to end up being a cover, basically a cover one, but the cover one safety, the high safety is going to come down and kind of play over the top of Kelsey specifically. So what that does, boom, you got MVS money all the way, to the end zone if he has time. Obviously, he has to catch it, right? That was the joke everyone made as soon as I tweeted this, is MVS probably wouldn't have caught it, so it doesn't really matter. But you see Pacheco do a really good job picking up pass pro here. I really feel like it was just a design flaw here. I really feel like the coaching staff screwed Jawan Taylor up. I think why not just have Kelsey be the inside tight end and Gray be the outside tight end? Then you have Gray. If you want Gray to be the chip, I mean, have Kelsey chip. I don't care, but just the outside tight end needs to be the chip here. I feel like the inside tight end, you're just setting up for failure here. And again, it just pushes Reddick to have an easier angle to the back of the pocket. And you can see MBS have all that room down here, down the middle of the field. Mahomes could have just laid it out to him, would have been an easy touchdown if he caught it again. So we can only hope so. But again, it's more than just the drop. So that was one way. The other way here, Mahomes did throw a terrible interception. I mean, it was a very bad interception, and I'm going to show you here how bad it was. And I just talked about the scheme failing him on the first clip I showed. The scheme was beautiful on this play. It was an amazing play call. I love this kind of play call. I don't remember the last time they ran this in the red zone and had success with it, but I know I've seen this from them before where what happens here is he's Justin Watson in the slot here is going to fake a shallow crosser right off the bat, and the defense is going to react that way. But then he's going to pop off and go vertical and kind of catch the defense off guard. But to break that down further, you're going to see that linebacker right here. When he sees him go shallow crosser, kind of feels that, he's going to step up. And that's what's gonna create this space. What that also does, thinking that's a shallow crosser at first, this single high safety that's got all this room back here, he's gonna relax a little bit. He's not gonna try to cover. He's not just gonna try to go full speed this way anymore when he thinks it's a shallow crosser here. So you're gonna actually see him relax a little bit. Oh shoot! Now he's going vertical. I got to get over there. So Watson runs this with great timing, gets vertical, but then he does try to flatten out here. It's hard to see in the all 22 angle. He tries to flatten out towards the end zone here, but the throw is just faded inside behind him. It's just a bad throw by Mahomes here. It's perfectly set up, but you see Watson's going to be wanting to run this way. He's trying to flatten out here, run into the end zone over here. Mahomes should be leading him that way. Instead, Mahomes puts it up like Watson's has a trailing defender in man coverage, and he's trying to beat him to the back of the end zone, which is just not what is happening. I think it's just a missed throw. I think Mahomes just got lazy with his footwork, his technique, saw a touchdown pass, and it was an interception because Kevin Byard does make a good play. You got to give him credit. He gets over there quick, but that's an easy interception, honestly. Mahomes gives it to him. And you can even see from the all-22 angle, he had all this room to work with because if you see these routes down here, everyone's to the sideline, everyone's in man coverage, no one's looking for the ball. He could have put this out anywhere around here, would have been a touchdown. Instead, interception. So, again, not just the drops. That's on Mahomes. And that's a bad interception.
And you got empty protection there. Very good pocket when, the Chiefs have no running backs, no one in helping. I mean, if that's maybe one thing they have to go to also is some empty protection looks just to get more people involved in routes quicker. I mean, that's what they're going to have to look to also. It should have been a touchdown. Or, if anything, throw it away and take your 3 later on.
No, 100%. No, it's a great call with just less people or more people, I should say, into the routes right away. Even when you're chipping right at first and getting to the flat, that's not a real route. That's you're taken out of the play. So I totally agree with you. Here is going to be another example of Mahomes just not being on the money as much as you'd like down the field. This is actually a pretty nice route from Kelsey. It's actually a positive thing from the game for Travis Kelce. He didn't have the greatest game, right? Had the fumble. But I think a lot of people, today wanted to maybe, or the last couple of days wanted to maybe say that, hey, maybe there's some wash there. Maybe he's, not moving as well. You see the route off the line here, just beautiful. Gets Byard frozen, gets him stunned at the line for a second, and then gets by him vertically on the go route. And the single high safety again is away from Kelsey here. That strong safety is actually coming down to blanket Kelsey, but he doesn't think Kelsey's going to be. He just blindly does. That's actually a pretty bad play by the safety. He just blindly comes down here to cover Kelsey over the middle when Kelsey's running vertical past him, and so this becomes a big opportunity for a big play here. What you're going to see though is the throw a little inside. Kelsey has to go back into the field and go and get it, and it's a better view from the end zone angle. But he definitely gets interfered with here. Byard hooks his left arm. Definitely an interference, should have been called, but it wasn't. But my point here is that if Mahomes puts this on the money, puts it on his outside shoulder, gives him room to run under it a little bit, because Kelsey has the room. Kelsey's got to step on him. The reason he comes back in is because of the throw. If Mahomes puts this more on the money, this is a huge play. This is a great play to get into the red zone. Instead, it's an incompletion. It's a missed opportunity. And so these last 2 plays kind of show you that, Mahomes has some fault in this too, even when the throws are there. He has not been as accurate down the field as you would like to see from him. And I've joked that look, he's been so focused on getting better at everything else in his game. Like, you think he ever works on the deep ball? Like, he knows he's good at that. And so maybe he doesn't get as many reps, pinpoint accuracy throwing these deep balls, but at the same time, he can make these throws. We've seen him make these throws all the time. He has a great one to Justin Watson later in the game on the corner route to the sideline. That's beautiful, goes in. But you just like to see maybe him execute that throw a little more. But these last two I'm going to show are definitely not on him, are definitely on the receivers. And this is where it becomes, I wrote today or this week that it's DEFCON. 1 is actually the highest level of DEFCON, not 5. People say DEFCON 5. DEFCON 1 is where we're at with the receiver position. And it's because of simple misexecution like this. Justin Watson here on 3rd down. This team needs a conversion. This team all second half, or most of the game, honestly, on 3rd downs, on money downs, this strong safety, Sidney Brown, was coming down onto Kelsey's side and was covering him up. Mahomes knows that. The whole world knows that. The coaching staff knows that. And so Mahomes knows here, I'm getting a shot play. I'm getting single high. I'm going to get cover 1. I'm going to have Justin Watson man-to-man vertical. I trust my guy to win quick and get down the field. Boom, baby. We are in for business. Mahomes confidently steps into the throw, puts it on the money to the outside shoulder. Where's Justin Watson? It looks like he overthrew Justin Watson to the untrained eye, but clearly Justin Watson, if you watch him, bends inside. And what's happening here is Watson does not pick up on the Eagles' rotation late, does not pick up on single high safety, and he is trying to kind of bend this inside because if it was a too high look, and this is speculation, but I believe he'd be running more of like a vertical, like a post, like in between the safeties, right? Because that's kind of how it adjusts in a route like this. Instead, when it's 1 high, he needs to be getting this separation he gets initially, and he needs to be fading towards the sideline once that ball's released. He doesn't need to be fading anytime before that, but once the ball's released, he needs to be fading out, not in. And that's exactly what happens here is he is going inward instead of outward. The ball is placed on his outside shoulder like it would be for a textbook go. This is high school stuff right here. That really is. Mahomes 3-step, boom. I'm putting it on the money. And Watson is just not running the right adjustment to the route. He's still running vertical, but he's running inside with an inside leverage instead of the outside leverage that he needs to the outside shoulder. That would have been a big play. If Watson catches it on the run, it's a potential touchdown down the sideline. That happens in the second half. Again, it's on 3rd down. Misexecution on the money downs is crucial, man, on those big downs. And here's another example. This isn't on 3rd down, I don't believe. It honestly could have been. I can't recall off the top of my head. I think they might have got bailed out a play later on a DPI. But this is another example of the receivers and Mahomes not being on the same page. Chiefs, again, and here's the big point here is I kind of made it at the top here, Caleb, but the Chiefs' run game was working in the first half, didn't work as much in the second half because the Eagles were bringing more bodies to the line of scrimmage and we're daring the Chiefs to throw. We're daring the Chiefs to make these completions, and this is a perfect example of it. They blitz here, and they leave receivers, and it's cover 0. It's receivers, no safety help, just man coverage, and MVS actually has free safety Reed Blankenship on him instead of a cornerback. So he should be burning this dude deep. It should be a touchdown. And guess what? He does burn him. He runs by him easily, but he flattens to the sideline. It's like there's safety help he needs to run away from. It's late in the game and they need a play to get to the sideline. Why is he not angling this to the pylon like Mahomes throws it? This needs to be a touchdown. This needs to be MVS breaking it off, running to the corner, catching this in stride and going into the end zone for a touchdown. Instead, he breaks this off. Just watch how much he's angling towards the sideline here. That angle is someone that's catching it and running out of bounds immediately. That is not the angle of somebody that's running into the end zone. And the point is, guys, the receivers need to make these adjustments on the fly because that's how this team gets you don't get these opportunities often. And this is part of the offense, is that when you don't have safety help, when you know that you're going to have no one over the top to run away from, get vertical. That's why this ball is off place. Mahomes didn't just like magically throw it completely off. Look how confident he is throwing this ball. Watch, he knows he's got a touchdown, and MVS is just cutting it off. Like, it's ridiculous. And that's why 11 needs to play as little snaps as possible. I'm not even showing the drop people, and MVS is still driving me crazy. So this was the last play I had. And so we'll kind of, I'll throw it back to you, Caleb, on your frustrations with the offense and just maybe, you haven't talked receivers yet, but Chiefs offensive line. Yeah. I mean, they pick up the blitz just enough to get this off, right? They, like you mentioned, they've done their job. A lot of people are doing their job. Yesterday really fell on the receivers, the pass game overall, but really on the receivers for the most part, really with the drops and these two plays. Caleb, how you feeling?
It's so wild to me that they're having this many issues. And let's be real, like everyone's blaming the assistant coaches. Like I know I ride Dave Tobe, but that's because he's kind of directly involved with how his guys play punts and whatnot. Like, dude, absolutely. Connor Embry is not going to go out here and say, all right, MVS, you're the highest paid wide receiver on this team. Please catch the football. That should be something that should be expected from him on a typical basis. And he's gone multiple games this season without a single reception. The Chiefs have a lot of guys that go multiple games without receptions, and they're being targeted also. Like, yeah, I mean, Justin Watson had a touchdown. He also dropped like 4 balls.
Yeah.
And
that's what happens when you target Justin Watson 11 times. Like,
I know
you love him as wide receiver 3, you love him as wide receiver 4, but like, what do you expect, right?
And even like the whole Sky Moore thing, I'm like, I get it. He gets open at some point during the play, but it's not where it needs to be. And I'm like, they're not at a point in the season where they're going to be, changing what Mahomes is looking at to just get the ball to Sky Moore. Now, Rashee Rice is different. I mean, he still doesn't really know how to read the zone. He doesn't really know where to sit or when to, kind of get to the flat. But what they can do is get him the ball in space as much as possible and let him operate, because it was pretty weird. There's some looks where the Eagles are playing some pretty deep cushions, and the Chiefs on like one of those plays, they did run an RPO, and Rice almost scored a touchdown on it. So, I mean, I think there's still a lot of hope there with him. Just for the offense, though, in general, like, it's hard. Like, developing great offense is hard. It takes years. Like, the Chiefs offense that we knew up until this year had been started and had been building since Andy Reid got to town. And then they got Mahomes in 18, and that kind of brought it into the next generation, to like the next level of things. This isn't like a situation like we think of with the defense every year, not this year, but where, they snap their fingers and all of a sudden from weeks 12 to the playoffs, they're like one of the best units in the league. They force a lot of turnovers. They're not giving up a lot of points. This is like chemistry-based stuff. This is timing.
Yes.
On defense, you can do what Spags does. You can just send a lot of guys at the quarterback sometimes, and I'm not taking away from the defense or anything like that, because what they've built is completely special over there. Also, the way they hold each other accountable and kind of swarm to the football and play as hard as they can every snap. But these connections the Chiefs are missing on, I mean, this stuff takes time. It's not like a quick fix overnight. So, I mean, they've got a couple of things they can do. I'm just hoping, they can find, some way to create some offense here as they get ready to, to get into the critical part of the season.
Yeah, no, I mean, we saw it. It's like you pointed out, it's the run game. It's, trying to run with lighter personnel, running from, getting away from 13 personnel. And, when teams force you to pass, once you kind of build the lead like they have the last 2 games, they just need to freaking complete the passes. And so I have faith that they will win plenty of games the rest of the season and look very good and be a Super Bowl contender. But, I just feel like we're going to get to a big spot and a big moment, and these receivers are going to let the team down, unfortunately. And so I think it's because you talk about, this game having Watson and MVS kind of be like the guys that have drops. Oh, so he's supposed to throw to Tony, who had a big drop problem in a big game at one point this year. Oh, you want to throw to Rice, who has drop problems all the time. Obviously, Rice should be very much involved, but it's just more to the point that, there's no one Mahomes probably feels very good about throwing to at all, from the wide receiver position. And, like, you can't fix that in season. Like, right? Like, you cannot fix him like liking these dudes to throw to. And the only dude he does like to throw to is Justin Watson, who, like we just said, like you can't have 11 targets to him. If you're throwing to him 11 times a game, yeah, I can tell you right now we're not winning a damn Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think this was a good vent sesh, Caleb. But I think again though, let's end on the high note because and I'll throw it back to you on this. Like, that offensive line did kick some ass on Monday, and so maybe we can bank on them to really, just be butt kickers moving forward, and maybe this team can kind of, like the coaching staff can kind of let them know that, hey, we're going to lean on you. You wrote that article for the site. Do you think the offensive line can kind of, play some bully ball and kind of, maybe overcompensate for the receiver position?
I certainly hope so. And I think, they had a couple of weeks back to back where it was like not some of the best football they've played, but they responded well in a big situation. They've responded well quite a few times this year when they've gone against some of the better defensive fronts in the league. They can even help them out, though. I mean, they've got to come up with some sort of other running back rotation. I mean, Pacheco's not the issue, but I think everyone in the Chiefs organization kind of knows his style of running is not conducive for like being able to play for an extremely long time unless his snaps are limited, which they are now to some degree. I just think they need to establish some other running back, and I don't know if it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Jerick McKinnon right now who can, they can say, all right, they're kind of keying on Pacheco this week. Someone else needs to have 15 touches from the backfield this game, and we'll just kind of find ways to maneuver that stuff around. I think they're on the right track with the Kadarius Toney stuff. I think eventually that's going to open other things back up. I mean, I'm just trying to think, there's other guys they can go bring in. I mean, there's some running backs somewhere that's got some fresh legs, so they can try to see if they want to run the ball a little bit more. And then I guess passing game wise, start trying to find Noah Gray more ways to get involved. That really seems maybe something they could do.
Yeah, you did mention LaMichael P. Ryan earlier. Hey, when we watched him in the preseason, I will say the name that came to my mind and some other smart people on Twitter's minds was Spencer Ware. I mean, he does have a little Spencer Ware in him. Guess who? Or I should say it like this: he was a guy that came in. I want to say maybe week 10 or 11 of the 2015 season. When they had some running back injuries, that Charkandrick West season. It was the year Jamal got hurt. And he helped them play some good bully ball down the stretch and get into that playoff run. So Michael P. Ryan, the next Spencer Ware, we're calling it right now. We're going to do it. We're going to be the first ones to say it.
Yeah, and when McKinnon first came to town, it was that his first game was that late season game versus Denver, and then all of a sudden he was in the lineup every week there into the playoffs. So I mean, there's definitely a little bit of there's a little bit of smoke and fire there with Andy Reid and some of these like late season elevations with the running back position.
I know. No, that's a good call. I'd be interested, man. Hey, the last point there is that this team has 2 games against the Raiders, a game against the Packers, a game against the Patriots, a game against the Burrow-less Bengals, which I do think they will be more competitive than people may give them credit for right now. All that to say, this team has opponents on their schedule where maybe they can say, all right, let's bring up P. Ryan for a game and see what you got, or other positions too. I mean, get some of these practice squad tight ends up and give him Blake Bell spot for a game or two. I'm telling you, I have some bias there, but let's just see what can happen maybe with a Bushman or a G Prince up on the squad. So that's where I'm at. So yeah, let's end it there, Caleb. Appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate you guys watching. We're always here to break down the X's and O's. We do it most of the time Tuesday nights, but this week, Monday Night Football, kind of pushed back the film watching a little bit. But next week, we should be back on Tuesday evenings. Yeah, Caleb, I'll give you a chance to tell them where to find you and any articles to plug.
Yeah, man, you can find me on Twitter at CJ Scoobs. I had an article posted today about exactly what I talked about, leaning on the offensive line. Been working on something else with just kind of looking at how the Chiefs can even make their run game even a little bit better. Going to look at some formational stuff, like Ron said. Going to look at, maybe finding different ways to use Pacheco and maybe finding another back. Because I tell you, man, if they got Pacheco some of those outside run plays, like they throw that toss to Clyde, that could have turned out a little bit different. Maybe they need another back they can find that could just run up the middle and just eat contact like he does and let him be a little more explosive. But we'll see. Hopefully, I'll have that out here shortly.
Man, that's funny you say that. That was also run towards us, and we were all joking like anybody else scores on that. I mean, like it was one of those runs where like it was Red Sea parted. No, like he had so much space to work with, and he just barely got the first down and got out of bounds. Like, oh man, if that was if that was Pacheco, that might have scored anyway. So shout out Caleb, doing great work on the site. Follow him on Twitter. I am at Ron_Kopp. I'll have stuff about, like we talked about tonight, the article up tonight, along with other stuff covering the game. We got the Raiders this week, so we still got to be looking forward to a game on Sunday. Appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you guys listening. Make sure you follow the sites for all the latest news and everything like that. And until next week, we'll just catch you then. Appreciate you guys watching.